Well, good morning. I wish you could all come and stand in this place and just see this sea of faces, of friends in Christ as we're all together. It is just amazing. I thank you for the great privilege that you give to me to be here standing in this place. And I thank you for the great outpouring of support and good wishes and prayers that so many of you have already given for my upcoming sabbatical. I feel blessed. Yes, I am excited to go, but I heard myself saying at the CCM breakfast that I'm really excited about coming back. Now, I want to go in between, but before I come back. But I'm excited about coming back with some renewed energy and vision, and having seen and done art at home and in other parts of the world, to see what the Spirit might be doing. And I'm excited when the time comes to be able to bring that back and share that with all of you. So I thank you for that. And I thank my brothers, Shannon and Ted and David, for being colleagues in such a way that it's possible for one of us to be away, and the life of the diocese and of the episcopate and the leadership continues. I'm so grateful to have such good and faithful brothers. Thank you. So sometimes, and I wonder if it's like this for you, sometimes for me it's really hard to find a pair of shoes that fit. In fact, I end up having to send a lot of boxes back to Zappos on a regular basis until my very strangely shaped feet find a pair that fit, and a pair that I can walk in without pinching, without aching, without blisters. Sometimes it's hard to find that right pair of shoes. Well, St. Paul actually offers us a pair of shoes and a fit that have the possibility of being perfect. He writes in the letter to the Ephesians, "As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace." Well, this year, we as a diocese have put on our gospel shoes. We've put on those gospel shoes to walk in a variety of places and in a variety of ways. Gospel shoes have taken us to places where love is manifest and to places where love is achingly needed. At this convention, 2 congregations will put on their gospel shoes and walk into a new relationship with the diocese. St. Luke's Simeon in the Charlottesville area and St. Paul's Nominee Grove on the Northern Neck will become parishes later this morning, and it will be a joy to share that walk in gospel shoes with them. Walking in gospel shoes led us to close a church this year, St. Martin's in Doswell. That tiny little congregation, before they closed, they put on their gospel shoes every day in a vibrant food ministry to people in Hanover County. When the county moved the food distribution site from the grounds of St. Martin's to another place, the congregation developed exciting plans to farm the land around the church in order to provide wholesome produce to supplement the county-provided fare. In the end, though, they didn't have the critical mass of people that they needed to bring that vision to reality, and the very few members dispersed to other nearby congregations. We'll give thanks for the life and ministry and for the faithfulness of St. Martin's over generations as we deconsecrate that church building later this year. And because of that, I remind you that with this closure, we are now a diocese of 180 churches. 180. Gospel shoes took me in the past year to the dump in Guatemala City, the dump of all places. It is a place, as you can see, maybe a bit from the picture, a place of filth and stench and danger, as garbage 10 stories high shifts and slides, and as pent-up gases explode. It's a Dante-like vision of hell. Men and women go there every day, gleaning among the moving dump trucks for glass and plastic and metal that they sort and recycle to earn $2 or $3 a day, not nearly enough to live on. They live in invasiones, neighborhoods that are built on reclaimed landfill. Children are born there with little promise of a life beyond the dump. But there is hope for so many of those children, because Carlos Molina, who grew up there, has a different vision than that vision of hell. And because Greg Loudon, a son of this diocese from Leeds Church Markham, because Greg is there and empowers organizations that serve youth at risk. We will hear from Greg and Carlos later this morning in a video greeting from mission partners around the world. Gospel Shoes took us to walk in solidarity with Latino brothers and sisters, and to continue to walk with them, with those who experience fear and uncertainty in the shadow of harsh rhetoric about immigrants in our midst. Early in Advent, I visited Las Damas Visioneras, the women's group of La Iglesia de Santa Maria. One woman told me about her 16-year-old son, her beautiful boy, who was born here in Virginia, who speaks English without a hint of a Spanish accent, who is excelling at school and will likely be the first member of his family ever to go to college. Well, through her tears, she said that in November, after the presidential election, her precious boy was bullied for the first time at school, for the first time in his life. And he was told on more than one occasion that he wasn't wanted in America. Well, because of her story and others like it, the gospel shoes of your bishops and of other Episcopalians from across the diocese walked us to Santa Maria, as you heard Bishop Shannon mention yesterday. On December 4th, we gathered there for un servicio de luz y esperanza, a service of light and hope. We sang together. We heard words of strength and offered words of encouragement to each other. We lit candles all around the church. We offered blessings to those who came to us and wanted an individual blessing and a blessing on their community. And as you heard Bishop Shannon say yesterday, we pledged to walk in love with our immigrant brothers and sisters, no matter where that walk takes us. We pledge to walk even into acts of intentional, faithful, and holy civil disobedience. And many of us now in the diocese are pledged to find ways to get training in civil disobedience and in faithful, holy resistance so that we can do that work faithfully and well. Gospel Shoes led us as a diocese to concrete service for the sake of others, Last February, a tornado cut a path of destruction in parts of Virginia, including Essex County. Members of St. John's Tappahannock worked with others in the community to provide water and basic needs and to support their sister church, St. John's Baptist Church, that was, as you see in that picture, completely destroyed by the tornado. People of St. John's and St. Paul's and other churches in Richmond build community with neighbors in the East End of Richmond through Laundry Love, though I doubt that any of them have served in the way that this picture might suggest. At least I hope they haven't. People in most of our congregations provide food for those who are hungry, coats for those who are cold, warm socks, or Thanksgiving meals, Christmas gifts, or diapers, or other necessities for people who need them. We walk in gospel shoes. You walk in gospel shoes to visit people who are sick and to stand in colorful gospel shoes for joyful worship every week. Gospel shoes took men, women, and children from this diocese to Washington last Saturday, where we joined hundreds of thousands of others. I shared my reasons for going before I went in a video of a sermon that I preached at St. Catherine's to the upper school just a week before the march. I hope if you haven't seen that you might take a look to know how my decision to go there was rooted in my faith and in the vows that I took at my baptism. I've heard at this convention stories from many of you about what you experienced there or how you prayed if you weren't able to be there, and how you prayed if you felt no call to be there. I'll share with you just one story of one encounter that I had. In the middle of the day, a few of us stepped out of the crowd and went into the Museum of African American History and Culture. There I met an elderly African American man, a Methodist minister. He was sitting there inside the museum, taking a break from the crowds. He told me that he had marched with Dr. King in Washington in 1963. And I have to say that tears of gratefulness sprang to my eyes as he said that. And then I experienced those tears falling when he said that he was the first African American to check a book out of the public library of his small southern town. And that was after being beaten repeatedly for trying to check out that book. He said he was in Washington this time to voice his insistence that no man, woman, or child ever be treated that way again. As I heard him, I was mindful of my privilege as a white person and deeply humbled to see his gospel shoes and to walk for just a moment in his beautiful shadow. We strap on our gospel shoes and we walk in love because we are made for love by God who loves us fiercely. We love God. We pray to God. We listen to God. We strive to walk with God. And as many of you have heard me say in sermons in these past months, that relationship, that love between us and God is a vertical spirituality. But with God, we get other people. When we enter into relationship with God, we get relationship with other people. That's the deal that we agreed to in our baptism. There's no way around it. Loving God means that we are called into love with other people. We come to know God through others, and we serve God in others. And that is a vertical spirituality, knowing God and serving God because of others, being in relationship with them. And of course, when we put the two together, what do we get? The cross. We get the cross of Christ. We as Christians live right at the heart of the cross, right there at the intersection of the love of God with love for other people. At the heart of the cross, we live. From the heart of the cross, we serve. In the heart of the cross, we strap on gospel shoes to go wherever God's love takes us. And when we get there, we live out our bias. Because yes, we as Christians are biased. And when people accuse us of being biased because of where love takes us, we should embrace that. It's not a partisan bias. It's not a bias about one political party or another. It's a Jesus bias. It is a Jesus bias. And it's a bias that we reaffirm every time we renew our baptismal vows, every time we promise to seek and serve Christ and others, to love our neighbors as ourselves, to strive for justice and peace, and to respect the dignity of every human being. We have a Jesus bias that shapes and forms who we are, a Jesus bias that takes our walking feet to every place where Jesus wants to be. Say it with me. I'm taking this from Bishop Rob yesterday. Say it with me. It's a Jesus bias. Once more. It's a Jesus bias. So lace up, strap on, or slip into your gospel shoes, Diocese of Virginia. Go out to be witnesses to your Jesus bias. Walk in love wherever you go, today, tomorrow, and every day of your lives. Thank you.